Hello and welcome to my newest video on restoring the dinky Euclid tipper. This is a very play-worn version that stood on my mate's garage windowsill for around 20 years. I remember it in his garage. Stood next to his cars in his workshop while we were working on them and also working on lathes for engineering. I've always remembered it stood there over 20 years and decided to take it home for a resto. And one of the things you'll notice is it's lost one of its headlights and they're not available as spares, and I didn't fancy making one, so I'll be leaving as is. There's a sort of nod to its over 50 years of rough playwear, I guess, and rough conditions. Anyway, Avanti, let's go. And here, I'm just starting using my mini Dremel to grind the ends off the axles so I can take the wheels off. On this dinky, they had a system where the actual wheel axle held the cab onto the chassis rather than using a rivet, and quite a good simple idea really. Saved riveting and just throw the axle through the casting and do the wheels. And here we have the wheel ready to be popped off after the axle's been ground. Quite a simple task, just lift it up and off, and then the axle's left on. You can just pull that out through, and then the cab front lifts up and it's held on at the back of the cab by a couple of tags. Just straightforward, simple engineering. It worked really well. Quite sturdy, simple ideas Dinky used to use. And that's the cab. And the underneath where the exhaust mounts in, which I'll be grinding out to take the exhaust off. And that's just the cranking handle from inside. It would have wound a like bar in and out that made the tipper go up and down, but the bar's been lost and I don't think they're available as a bar, so that'll just get cleaned up and put in. And that's the chassis ready for the rear wheels coming off and the tipper body being taken off. Just starting to grind the rear wheels. And once they're done, they can be pulled out and ready to take the tipper body off. It's such simple idea of assembly on these. Cracking little toy car. And here we have the rear wheel being lifted off after grinding the end of the axle off, and the rest of the axle gets taken out, and then it's just a matter of the tipper body. There's the last hinge pin to be removed, and then we'd be ready to start cleaning off and painting it. And next up comes grinding the pin out of the tipper body so we can remove tipper body. The intentions is to grind the head off one side and then to punch the bar out with a little bit of a punch to take it out of the chassis and push the bar through so it releases the tipper body from chassis. As you can see, it's quite a tight, even though it's a large truck, it's quite a tight area to get into with grindstone, but easy enough to do, nothing impossible, and comes off in a jiffy. And once it's been ground, we get hold of the pin from the other side and pull out and through, and this in turn releases tipper from the chassis. And one thing I noticed about this model is, I've always noticed it ever since it's been on Winston, but it has a slight bend in the chassis, which I remedied by just pushing down on board, and it made it a lot straighter. And then once done that, I got straight edge out, used me saw and put it against it, and it looks straight enough to me now, so that'll be acceptable for carrying on with. And next up is the cab unit, removing the exhaust. This I do by grinding with me mini Dremel with a stone in it to remove. It's been riveted like a base would be essentially, so the exhaust is sort of the rivet and riveted to the cab bonnet area. A bit of grinding with the stone just to release it, and there we are, taken out with the pliers, ready for being cleaned up with some emery cloth. And next up into the fight is some Mortar Glim bumper and trim gel. It's a car valeting product and used on bumpers, plastics, rubber. I just put some in my hand, clenched my hand together with the tyres in it, then used a rag to clean them over, and it's brought them up nice and black and shiny and new looking again. And next up came the caustic soda dip. Poured the boiling water in first, as you'll see the level rise. And unbelievably on this one, it was a rapid process because the paint was probably goosed to begin with, and it just sort of, rather than peeling, it just sort of turned to dust, if you will, oxidised into the paintwork. As you can see, it was just more like Alka-Seltzer and fizzed off the paint than actually peeled off. Ended up with basically a cloud in a jar. Here we see the axle starting to be hammered straight, knocking the bends out of it. And what the process is, it's knock it with a hammer, turn it, see if the bend's out, and if you turn it and look at it, you can tell if it's running true. I'll show you the idea at the end once I've done it. If you spin it between your fingers, you can see if you're getting when I take my hand away from the vice there, like I've done at present, that's when I'm spinning and looking at it. And now I'm happy, I'll show you. On video, I'm spinning there, and it's straightened the axle out. On the other side, it's not 101% perfect, but it's a lot better than it was, and looking good. And in this clip, I'm demonstrating how I clean up axles. I put them in my mini Dremel, and whilst it's spinning, use either emery cloth or emery board and go up and down. It's a quick method of doing it, and it gives you lovely and clean axles again in no time. And here's all the ones before I do them, and I'll show the results after. And here we see the results afterwards, once they've been cleaned with emery paper, and I had a Dremel with a wire wheel on the actual gear wheel. Here we have the various parts after having the paint stripped off and ready to be rubbed down with wire wool. The cab, as we can see, has the missing headlamp, but that's no real issue for me. It's gonna add to the patina and its age and show play wear really, so should be a nice little spot on it. It won't deter from a nice model anyway. Here I'm starting to rub down the bodywork with wire wool, ready for the painting stage. Take up things like oxidisation, and on this model the front bumper was quite severely bent on each corner, so I hammered it into shape with my hammer on the end of my vise, which I've probably picked a bad part of the video clip here, but I do show you the results at the end there, which has improved it. The two edges were bent right in, so it shows it off better. And here we have the truck parts in their finished colour, which is it's a sort of yellowy lime green creamy colour. It's a weird colour to describe. You probably describe it as, what's that flower called again? Oh, not buttermilk. There's a name for a flower that describes it anyway. Like a lighty yellow colour. And it does look quite nice in that shade of... I had time to think about it, and the colour I was thinking of was primrose. There I was arrow-diting the truck tipper body hinge pin in, putting a blob of araldite to hold it, as it's an awkward area to hammer the shaft down and splayed out. And whilst I had the araldite mixed, I put some on the base of the exhaust hole for mounting the exhaust to. And whilst the vise was out, put the wheel axle through and the wheel, ready to hammer the axle end flat and splay it out for holding the wheel in place. here we go, take two. Left a bit of a gap in the track there, I could have edited out, but hey ho, I'm not a pro, anything but really. But here we go, just hammering out the end to give a wider and flatter area. And next we move on to deckling. Boy did I have issues with these. Like, they were, as decals go, they were very thin and fine. Fantastic decals, don't get me wrong, but they was very awkward to handle. I spent two of the wording decals folded up and scrunched up on themselves, so I had to spend, it worked out at about an hour on each of them to save them, unravelling them, and oh, you don't even want to go there, but I cracked it eventually and saved waiting for days again for another decal sheet. But another thing worthy of mention is how you use microsol and microset. Microset is in the blue bottle, as can be seen behind the tip there, and it's brushed on first before you put the decal on, and it can be used over the top of the decal if you so desire. And for this model, microsol in the red bottle wasn't required, because in essence what microsol does is soften the decal so it conforms to any ridges and grooves and surface detail. But for this project it just wasn't needed, because it was a glossy painted surface that was smooth, so there was no real requirement for the microsol to make it adhere to contours. So it was just basically put on with a microset. So again, mentioning it very simply, your set is your first one in the blue bottle for actually applying the decals, and the sol in the red bottle is for actually making them conform to detail. And here is the finished article, looking absolutely superb in its new paint and decals. It's had everything basically done to it and looking rather splendid. Quite proud of it. If asked, would I have done it different and made the headlamp, I'd still say no. It still just has that little bit of a nod to it being a hard play one example, but it's another one that's took pride on my shelf and not paid any money for Spurs really. And here we have added extra of some still photographs just tagged on the end. Thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed, please press subscribe.